DC20 attribute overhaul. This is a big, huge, exciting thing. It's something that's been in the works. It's something that I've known about the attributes, and I just really wanted all the attributes in DC20 to line up right, to feel right. And the goal overall is to have every attribute matter in some way across the game, and when you take a step back, be overall balanced. Yes, I know, over the 3 pillars of the game: combat, exploration, social encounters. So charisma, for example, very strong in social encounters. Not really as strong as much in exploration, unless you were talking to people, but then that brings us back to here. And then charisma in combat is terrible, right? So I'm trying to address that problem with one of these updates. And then on the other hand, might, the strength attribute, your athletics and stuff. Might, very good in combat, very, very good. Gives you health. It's heavy armor bonuses, all that kind of stuff. Yes, very important for those tanky boys. But then might in exploration, not too bad. Athletics checks come up decently. You have moving boulders from stuff, of course. But then in social encounters, might is okay. Well, you got intimidation, and you can intimidate somebody social, so it's okay, but it shines in combat. So the big picture is I want all 4 attributes, and it's much easier to do this in DC20 because you only have 4 attributes. I want all attributes to be balanced and to be equally exciting to go get. And another problem in DC20, originally in the first version, 0.5 and before, was if you were a physical martial class and you had might and agility, you didn't really care about intelligence or charisma, apart from roleplay reasons, apart from those types of things, exploration, other things like that. The actual skills and saves involved with that, other than the skills and saves, checks and saves that you would make, it didn't really matter that much. And I think that's a problem. I think when you make a character, I want it to be an exciting opportunity of choices where you get this or you get that. Which one do you want? Interesting choices. I think that's very important. And at the same time, whenever you're a spellcaster, you chose intelligence or charisma because you needed to choose intelligence or charisma because it was tied to your mana. You had a mana bonus equal to the higher of your 2 mental stats. So you had to choose those. And then now once you chose one of the 2 of them, the other one didn't really matter to you at all. And the other 2 stats kind of did because you needed health and stuff, but you probably always chose agility because agility gave you health and armor, and it was a one-stop shop for everything, and you didn't care about might at all. So there was just some general problems. I knew this at the creation of the game, and I wanted to get it in you guys' hands and let you play it. And after doing a whole bunch of stuff, I have these 4 characters in my head that I've always continuously made and remade over and over again. And this has been the best time where it's felt perfect, honestly. So here is the attribute overhaul with that out of the way. The first thing to talk about is mana pools for those spellcasters. I don't think it's fair in the rules currently where martial classes have stamina. That's their resource. Spellcasters have mana. That's their resource. Martial classes just get their stamina. Straight up. It's on their table. They get stamina. Boom. That's it. Super simple, right? They just straight up get stamina. So they get 1, right? Done. But spellcasters, on the other hand, they have to bake it into a mental attribute. So now you have to choose an attribute, mental attribute, intelligence, or charisma. That's now being changed. So now, from this point forward in 0.6, spellcasters' mana is tied to their prime modifier. Oh my gosh, it's tied to their prime modifier. So now you don't have to be intelligence or charisma. Pick one of the 2 of them. You have to, so you actually can choose freely between all 4 of them. And you don't even have to choose between the 4 attributes. It's just your highest attribute is your prime modifier. So your prime modifier, which is always going to be 3 in general, that's your mana bonus. So you have a 3 mana bonus and plus the 3 you get from your class. So now all mana, all characters, when they start out, assuming your prime modifier is 3, which it should be, your mana is just 6. It's just 6 straight up, and that's it. If you start to multi-class and do other things, that's why prime's still connected to it. So if a martial only character dips into spell casting and picks up a little spell casting feature, they get their prime bonus in mana. Right? Oh, nice. Good. We're good. Nice. This works. This is good. So now it's just a bit more fair across the board. Might as an attribute is important for specific people. People that want to wear heavy armor, people that want to throw things far. Might is a good attribute for those types of things, but I also want might to be able to not have the same problems it did in D&D, where strength as an attribute is not the best in general. Right now in DC20, might is in a very good spot. It's tied to health and all those things. So now the best way I can phrase this is the new health formula. Health in DC20 used to be a base of 4 plus agility plus might. That was the original formula. And then you also have some bonuses from your class and or ancestry features. But the core base of the health formula was 4 plus agility plus might. And you also, yes, you would subtract, right? If that happens. Now, the new shiny health update in 0.6 is a base of 5. 1, that helps things across the board. It brings up the minimum for the squishy boys, right? The people who dump the physical stats and all that kind of stuff. It brings it up just 1 notch because people, if they made characters that were a little bit super slanted towards squishy, died a little bit faster than I would like as far as the minimum health of the game. So now, boom, 5 is the base. And that's also just honestly a nicer number for the base of a number. Anyway, so 5 is the base as far as your base health goes, plus might. That's it. It's just 5 plus might. No more agility. Agility is no longer added to your health pool. In general, it was kind of more of, this makes more sense for might to be the one that adds to your health. Might is the equivalent of constitution in DC20. Might adds to your health, no longer agility. In general, it was kind of a stretch for agility to be adding there anyway. The lore of it would be that you're able to dodge things more, and it's just the overall physical added to it. But what starts to happen if you don't realize is if mana is tied to your if mana is tied to both of your mental stats and health is tied to both of your other stats, then you end up in this weird scenario where you just pick one of the two of the, like I have to pick 1 physical and 1 mental. I have to pick one of this and one of that. Now that's all gone, and you truly can create a character in the way that you want, and you don't feel these like I have to have to do this or that. So now agility is standalone. I'm going to phase into agility real quick. Agility, if you didn't notice in this last update, got upgrades to your jump distances based on agility, fall damage is based on agility. It is truly the moving nimble stat. Dexterity in D&D is the strongest stat by far, right? So it's not hard for it to fall into a nice good place in DC20 as far as agility goes. Agility is also governs your light armor. And so it's entirely your light armor, and every single class in the game can use light armor, and most classes in the game are light armor based. So agility is going to be your literal physical defense, right? So agility is in a great spot, and now might is in a great spot because it's the only one that has health. So your health formula also gets a little bit more simple. 5 plus might. Done. And yes, this does bring the health down a little bit, but those extra points are now going to be sprinkled back into some of the other classes, and classes are going to give a little bit more health than maybe they did before. And ancestry bonuses are still going to happen in the first place. Timeout. Hold up. My health formula is 5, and yes, plus might. That was the change for agility. Might, the formula, I forgot. Character level, 2 times your character level. Another thing to reference here is if people are concerned about, oh, might's too strong now, 1 stat having all the health in 1 stat, oh no. But the big picture here is 5 as a base plus might, which is a maximum of 3, minimum of -2. So there's a little window there of fluctuation, right? But you also add 2 times your character level. So technically the base health of a level 1 adventurer is 7. 7 plus bonuses from your class, which is now more because the overall health and loss from agility is being sprinkled into the class bonuses, plus potential ancestry bonuses put in there that you can choose based on what ancestries you have. And then that is now the base health, which is around 8, 9, 10-ish, right? As far as fluctuation there. And then you put in might into that. So you can get a maximum of 13 health and a minimum of 5 health if you absolutely nerf everything down to the ground. Minimum of 5 health. If you take nothing from your class, nothing from your ancestry, -2 in might, purposely putting a -2 in might, which you are choosing that. You have many, many ways to not have -2 might. And then I think that's fine. You wanted to choose to play a 5 health character and you're a glass cannon, go for it, baby. Let's go. I love to see it. And keep in mind, death's door threshold in DC20 is 3. So you actually have a little bit more of a range there before you die. So anyway, so there's that. There's the big picture of the physical attributes, which are the main ones that have been little tweaks and adjustments. But really what I'm excited for are the mental attributes, intelligence and charisma. They have been the ones to not shine in combat. They don't shine in combat for marshals at all, and they don't shine in combat for spellcasters either, especially now that mana is tied to your prime modifier. Why do casters care about intelligence or charisma? Now, there's lots of reasons. The core part of the game has to do with concentration checks, and there's some other things. At the end of this video, I'm going to put a whole thing where I show you exactly what each stat does and contributes towards, so you can see truly the big picture for each of the 4 stats and be like, dang, I think they're pretty balanced. And if you don't, let me know, leave it in the comments what you think I could throw down there. So here we go. Next thing up is intelligence. Intelligence, I have a homebrew for this, an Alcander's Almanac for this, and if you see it coming, what now the new benefits is for intelligence. There are two of them. One comes in the future, one's happening right now. Intelligence. You gain a bonus number of skill points equal to your intelligence. That is a great homebrew for D&D. I've used it all the time. It was a thing I had in my mind for this, but I wanted to hold on to it till I did the attribute overhaul. I didn't want to put it out too soon. This is now the time for it. You gain a bonus number of skill points equal to your intelligence. So, and it's going to be part of your background. Your background gives you 5 skill points. That formula is now going to be 5 plus intelligence. Yes, you do subtract. I'm sorry, if you want to dump intelligence, then you're going to eat into those 5 base skills. So if you have an intelligence of -2, yes, that's going to be 5 minus 2, you have 3. If you have 5 and no intelligence, cool, you still have 5. And if you're an intelligence person, you got all the intelligence, you want to max out intelligence, that's your prime stat, oh my gosh. You got 8, baby. You got 8 skills to put in wherever you want. I freaking love it, right? It was so cool to see that addition and, extra skills. You want to be a fighter? You want to be an intelligence fighter, battlefield tactician? Well, yeah, you're going to have points and skills to put everywhere you want. And you can also, another little update here is, this is just a quality of life update. It just came into my head now, so I'm going to say it here. You can also trade in a skill point. Trade in a skill point for a trade point. So 1 skill point, you can convert 1 skill point into 1 trade point and spend it on trades if you would like. Also keep in mind, you can convert 1 trade point into 3. You can convert 1 trade point into 2 language points and put those into languages as well. Which also, languages are updated. They only have 2 levels now. That's probably another thing in another video. But intelligence now has a little bit more oomph and punch for character creation, and it matters a little bit more. Last up is charisma. Charisma, oh man, this was the hardest one. Not gonna lie, this was the hardest one, and this is also the one that I want the most feedback on. So leave me down in the comments. I'm also gonna put a YouTube community poll that I want to get polls on of what do you think about grit as a charisma score. I'm gonna tie it to a video. I'm gonna make a vote poll about it. Really want to know. So charisma is absolutely useless in combat. Oh, dang, right? Now, yes, there's communication and talking to people, and you can try and persuade your way out of things. Yes. Also, a little flashback to intelligence. I said there's 2 things. Each intelligence got 2 upgrades, and charisma gets 2 upgrades. One of them is happening right now, and the other one happens in the future. For intelligence, there's going to be a thing. It's called Recall Knowledge. Pathfinder does this, where you can make an intelligence check to learn information about a creature. That's going to be in DC20. It already is technically. It's just going to get fleshed out a little bit more in the future. And then for charisma, there is a morale system. There's NPCs have patience, morale, other things. Matt Colville actually released a system that is very, very similar in intent as far as having mechanics behind the scenes for NPCs. Also, Alcander's Almanac, which came out before that, and also, by the way, Alcander's Almanac has a persuasion system for NPCs that is a influence as far as ways to be able to sliding scale them and interact with them. That's going to happen, and there's going to be some instances of that's applicable in combat towards NPCs, breaking their morale, having enemies give up and run away. That type of stuff will be able to be done through interactions socially, so charisma will shine there in that way, but that's not true combat. So what is the big, huge update for charisma? Here we go. You get a number of grit points equal to your charisma score. So if you have a charisma of 3, you get 3 grit points. If you have a charisma of 1, you get 1 grit point. If you have 0 or none or negatives, whatever, you don't get any grit points. Now, the question is, what is a grit point, right? Yes, grit's back, baby. Grit is back. Is that going to be what the thumbnail says? I don't know. Grit is that. Also, another thing, charisma saving throws, charisma in general, charisma in combat has to do with force of will, right? Intelligence is your mind, like literally the brain floating around in your skull. It's your mind, your thoughts, intelligence, everything, your memories and stuff like that. Those are like intelligence saves. Charisma is your soul. It's that force of will. You get up and you keep going. That's going to be grit points, baby. So grit points, what do grit points do? Here's what grit points do. Grit points, you can use a grit point to give yourself advantage on a save. Oh, baby. You get knocked down, you get right back up, baby. Let's go. You have a save that happens against you. You don't have to spend action points to do this. You spend a grit point. So let's just say we'll use a charisma-based character for this example, just because we can. So if you have a 3 in charisma, you can give yourself advantage on a save. Bam, let's go. Get back up and let's keep fighting. Now, here's another thing. Charisma, I see charisma as a force of will within your own self, the grit aspect of it, and your party members. You are so inspiring and charismatic to your party members. They also get that grit. Get up! This is able to be, I just got chills. You're able to role play this across the battlefield. Look at your allies and they make eye contact with you and you give them that nod and they push through something. They're caught under a rock about to get crushed by it. They're like, they catch your eyes and you give them that nod and they fight back through it. So yes, you can spend grit points to give advantage to allies that can see or hear you. It's not just magically across the world. They have no idea. If they can see or hear you, right? You can spend grit points to grant your allies advantage on saves. This is not a reroll. You're not re-rolling. No. It slows down the game. I hate reroll mechanics. This is giving advantage against saves for yourself or allies that can hear you. Now, the caveat to this, you regain grit points on a long rest, so you can't just spam them all the time. This only happens in combat, is when your back's against the wall and you're pushing it. This is the only time where grit points are active is during combat, and you can't use multiples. You can only use one grit point per save, whether it be from yourself or allies. So there are a specific way to use them. So it's not overpowered in its application to where you can just use grit points left, right, and center and do all these different things with grit points, and it's a full-blown mechanic and it's like a subclass mechanic. It's actually not really a full-blown mechanic. It's a very simple mechanic about a very specific thing of saves. And I think this also, I'm going to say this because I know people are going to be in the comments saying this already. Oh, this steps on the toes of Bard and Warlord. Oh no, it steps on the toes of the help. No, keep this in mind. The help action in DC20 isn't advantage, and the help action doesn't apply to saves at all. It applies to checks specifically. So it definitely doesn't have to do with the help action, because that's actually a help die that you roll a D8 and stuff for. Nothing to do with advantage. And Bards and Warlords don't have this mechanic. They don't have a advantage on saves type of situation. So that doesn't it exactly doesn't step on toes. The Bard gets to inspire and role play through the different things the Bard can do. They have magical performances they can perform. They have auras of magic around them. They can help their help actions extended. The Bard is going to feel absolutely fine, whatever they choose, because you don't have to choose charisma as a Bard. You can be an intelligence Bard. You can be an agility Bard, an agility dancer Bard, whatever you want to do. You're going to be fine as a Bard. You don't have to choose charisma. Same for the Warlord. You could choose a might-based Warlord, heavy armor. You're a general of the battlefield. You're commanding people around. That has nothing to do with what I'm saying about grit points. Now, I say, a Bard that does charisma or a Warlord that does charisma and has these points, even more Bard-like, even more Warlord-like. Heck yes, right? I love that. I love the roleplay aspects of what you could do with that in those two classes. But now let's take those two classes, push them aside. What if you're a fighter? What if you're a fighter on the front lines and you are a charisma-based fighter? You look across and now you can kind of role play a leader, an emotional support leader, a commanding force on the battlefield, pushing forward leader, pushing yourself forward. You could also role play purposes. I have a player here that's a rogue. They have a 1 in charisma, and they're like, what would this, like, I don't know if my character would be able to like cheer on others. I was like, sweet. Then don't use your grit points for anyone but yourself. And that's a beautiful role play connection of how you use grit points. She's like, I don't really see it. I mean, yeah. So then this 1 point of charisma is basically once per long rest, you can give yourself advantage on a save. And in DC20, advantage is not as like precious of a resource compared to D&D. There's lots of different ways that you can get advantage. So this is not some sort of like broken game mechanic that, oh, now everyone has to have charisma. Oh my God. It's also less punishing because you can have a negative in charisma and you don't have negative grit points. You know what I mean? So it fits a perfect balance, and I really am excited about it. I know it's a little bit out there, and I do know, yes, it's a resource technically, because now it's a resource I have to track. The character sheet will be updated. There will be a spot for your grit points. It's going to be nice and simple to keep track of. But I think this is a nice little boost for roleplay of characters who aren't bards and warlocks, bards and warlords, to be able to roleplay that charisma on the battlefield, whether it's within themselves. And I'm a rogue. I don't think I have a connection with the rest of the party yet. I'm only going to use it on myself. Cool. But what if that rogue connects with another player? And what if that rogue through roleplay, and we're about to start the campaign, they now have a connection. And now they do, for the first time, use that grit point. You come on, stay alive. You got this. Let's go. That's so cool. That's so cool. So there's grit points. So here is the update of every single attribute, what it does. Might adds to HP. Green means it's different than before. And all of this is what it already was. Might checks and save. Encumbrance, which is not in the game yet. Throwing distance, how far you can throw stuff. Grappling, might requirements on heavy weapons and armor. And might adds to your heavy armor physical defense. Agility is the same as before. I think agility is in a great spot. Jump distance, fall damage were great upgrades to agility. Getting out of grapples. Your light armor, which is pretty much the physical defense for all classes. Very important. Agility range weapons and special weapons and whips have agility requirements. Agility checks and agility saves also important there. And then charisma and intelligence now. This is the new, there's a little sneak peek of maneuvers. Charisma is now gotten rid of in the red here, gotten rid of the mana points, is no longer tied to that way. Charisma adds to your mental defense. Intelligence adds to your mental defense. Also, both of these connect to language checks and maintaining concentration. And charisma checks and saves, we already know about that. Intelligence checks and saves. Now, intelligence also has in discerning illusions, technically. That's another thing I wanted, I guess, to make note of. But then you gain a bonus number of skill points equal to your intelligence, and you recall knowledge and grit number. Oh yeah, this should be green. There we go, grit points. You have a number of grit points like we just talked about. So there's that. And that is the big picture for what each and every attribute does in the big picture. So you can truly see all 4 attributes. What kind of character am I going to make? All right, I want to make a warlord, but which one? Do I want to have skill? Do I want to have, they're all so enticing. Which ones do I want? How much do I want to do? Very interesting. So that's the big update. Another last little thing here too, since it has to do with attributes, is ancestries in DC20. Some ancestries granted a potential attribute increases. So like orcs had an attribute might increase. Dwarves had an attribute might increase. Elves had an attribute of agility increase that you could choose to spend 2 ancestry points of the 5. How ancestries work, you have 5 ancestry points. You spend them to gain traits of your ancestry, right? But some of these ancestries, a lot of them you could spend 2 points to increase an attribute by 1. All of those are being removed. Humans still get theirs. Humans are the only ancestry in all of the game that will have a 2-point ancestry where you spend 2 points on it and you increase an attribute by 1. That's it. All other attribute increases are being removed from the game. Reason why? They're lame and boring and not flavorful and enticing to the class itself. So if I have an elf and I want to role play elf type things and be nimble and connected to nature and all these other things, my eyes can have special properties to do this. Oh no, I want to spend 2 of my 5 points and gain +1 agility. No. A lot of people and whatever you call them min-maxers or whatever, it's fine. People are trying to make optimized characters. I love it. Go for it. Let's do it, right? But I don't want people to be like, I'm going to take away all these cool, flavorful mechanics that really make me feel like an elf. I want 1 agility. No. So that's now being normalized as well, so that each of the ancestors are going to feel more flavorful, and people can't just be like, I'm going to take 2 points and get a strength from here, and 2 points and get a stat from there, and then now I have only 1 point left, I'll get this. And you don't feel like anything. You just had 2 points that you got that are now stat increases for attributes, and then you have 1 point worth of flavor for... No. So anyway, there's the last big update. Let me know what you think. Can't wait to see what you think. Stay creative. Think outside the box. Peace.